Yes, thank you. Thank you for the keynote. It's good to get those insights in what you guys are doing. But before I continue diving into ICP, I think it's good to just step out for a little bit. I used to be a retail investor, and now I'm a venture capital, and we constantly have a difficulty wrapping our head around what is the actual AI narrative.
Yeah.
What is it, and how would you say ICP is positioning themselves into that narrative?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. In particular, I think the majority of the AI narrative that we see today is actually vaporware to a certain extent. I hate to break the news, but I think most of the capital that is currently allocated in many of the AI players is probably not going to be very useful down the road. So in my view, there are two narratives, and a bit kind of relating to what I said in the keynote, that really make sense. The first one is AI, by nature, is a very centralizing technology, right? I mean, AI strives with a lot of data, and it gets more powerful with data. Blockchain, on the other hand, is a decentralizing technology by heart, right? So in my point of view, there is a clear narrative where blockchain can play the truth machine to AI, and you can achieve this in two different layers. You can either have an orchestration layer play, where you would still kind of keep central AI in check, or, and this is what we're working on as well, is you can fully go with decentralized compute for AI, which makes it even more safer. That's kind of the narrative number one, that I think has legs, right? So that makes sure, that makes sense. The second thing is that entire new paradigm of how AI will code and ship applications on a decentralized internet version. And I think that is a huge one, and that goes beyond just focusing on AI. That actually potentially will disrupt the entire way of how we develop software and how things are managed on the internet.
And if you look at that narrative, it goes in hype cycles, right?
Yeah.
So we currently see a big boom within Web3 with certain projects doing AI based on top of NVIDIA and all those Web2 companies. Where are we in that actual hype cycle, or where are we with AI at this point? Are we literally at the start, or is it in the middle? I mean,
it's obviously always hard to tell, but I think, in my experience, there are always two things we get wrong as humans, right? Number one, we tend to overestimate the short-term impact of things.
Yep.
Right? I don't know who was around in 2017 and 18 with Bitcoin when we jumped up to 20,000, right? And everyone thought, like, let's go straight to 100 now, right? Then we went actually back to 2,500, by the way, right? So we tend to overestimate the short-term impact, but the second mistake we're usually doing is we tend to underestimate the long-term impact of the technology itself. And actually, I had a chat with my colleague, Islam, over lunch. We were talking about, this entire e-commerce thing, right? E-commerce now has been around for more than 20 years, but I recall when it started, right, everyone was thinking, oh, in 2 years, we don't have any brick-and-mortar stores anymore. Right? They're still around, but I think e-commerce is constantly growing, and at one point in time, 10 years from now, maybe we will not even have brick-and-mortar stores. So where are we in the hype cycle? I think we are probably in the first inning of the classic curve where I obviously can't tell you, are we already at the peak or are we already on the way down? But I'm pretty sure there's going to be some wake-up moments where people will double-click on technology, because now everything is very narrative-driven, which is fine, right? But at one point in time, people will double-click on technology. And if there's nothing there in the majority of projects that are pushing a narrative, then obviously we will go down that slope. And then obviously it will pick up again. And again, I really believe in AI in the long term. That would be strange not to do.
I think there are many similarities when it comes to blockchain and AI. I think blockchain is getting the adoption once it becomes easy for the mass to use the blockchain without knowing that they are using blockchain.
100%, yeah.
And I think with AI, we've seen a similar case with ChatGPT, which was like, boom, we can do it on this way, and it starts improving quite fastly. What do you think in terms of verticals within Web3 are going to be having the largest impact when it comes to the integration of AI?
So there is, again, this, for me, the largest thing is definitely going to be build your own Web3 apps.
Yeah.
And by the way, I hope that at that point in time, we will not even call them Web3 apps. It will just be the new standard of how we do things, the same way we don't call other apps a Web2 app today, right? So I think that bubble will kind of, from a narrative point of view, will disappear at one point in time. And I think then is a good sign that we actually made it, so to say. The second biggest thing, and I would also love to hear your view on that, given that you're a trader background. I really think like there is a big play on the intersection between AI and digital asset trading, right? And the third one is around really deploying specific special purpose AI models on chain, right? These are kind of, from my point of view, the three main things. Oh, sorry, there's a fourth one. The fourth one is around anything that has to do with like customer interactions and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting one. I think AI is going to disrupt everything around trading as well. However, first it's going to make it more efficient. Like if you look at the indices at this point, they are being traded by algorithms, by AI. It's very efficient. It's hard to beat. And in Web3 and crypto, it's still about information, and it's all insider info, so that's quite hard to grasp for AI. But if you have on-chain data and you connect that to the charts, for instance, that's going to be a big boom.
Yeah.
But if we look at, I think Web3 in itself is very interesting, but if we look at Web2, AI can do a lot and solve a lot there.
Yeah.
One of the examples you were providing in the speech, but also before we had this talk, was you were able to challenge and change a preparation process for a law firm. And that was reduced by 3 weeks to 3 days. How were you doing that through the network of ICP?
Well, I mean, this is primarily an AI task, right? So there the power clearly comes from the model that is well trained and is basically reducing these kind of process times. What the ICP network adds, it doesn't add the AI model, right? The AI model still needs to be trained and then it needs to be deployed. It adds the verifiability of things. And if you think this through a bit, like if law firms or even like authorities use AI models for cases, for law discussions and so on, you want to be 100% sure that whatever comes out of the model has not been tampered with and is verified, right? And this is where the decentralization aspect comes in my view.
Is it gonna like create or kill a lot of jobs if AI kicks in through this?
Well, that has been obviously the question, right? My view is it will kill the jobs of people that are not able to work with AI, right? I don't think, again, that comes back to that idea where we tend to overestimate the short-term impact but underestimate long-term impact. Long-term, I think maybe many things will be optimized. Pair that with robotics, that's probably 10, 20 years down the road. And for sure, I think a lot of jobs will be replaced by the combination of AI and robots. But for the short term, that's for me like the next 10 years or so. The key advice for everyone that's just going to go to university now or just starts this new job is you need to become the best co-pilot ever for AI models, right? And I come from a consulting background, right? In consulting, you have the classic pyramid, right? Where you have the analyst at the bottom and then you work your rank up. I think the analyst job is already at risk in that sense, right? Because GPT-2 can do way faster, GPT-4 can do way faster research and way better structuring if you instruct it right than an analyst could do. But the key is that you're the co-pilot that gives the structure and everything. So yeah, I think a lot of job profiles will dramatically change.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a social content creator myself, so
you see it, right?
I can put it into ChatGPT and I can just make content from there. But I just try to just be unique.
Yeah.
I just like, from an ethical point, I just want to make my own content. But I can see that it's going to change because it's very hard to digest what is real or what is AI.
Exactly.
And it's also like one of the things that I also wanted to discuss is how do we keep our like moral ground, our ethical standards? Because if you go back and you look at the algorithms of social media, for instance, if you get into the wrong rabbit hole, you go bananas in the terms of the content that you're seeing, and it can twist your mind.
Yeah.
How are we going to keep that level of like moral standard up high?
Yeah, I think this is actually a real problem that we face, and here again, I think Web3 to the rescue, so to say, right? Because I think the only answer to this is open source, where everyone can actually verify how algorithms operate, right? And that you know that you're not manipulated, because as you said, like, it is super easy to just be in your own echo chamber, right? For a very long time, and we've seen this with the elections now, right? I think there were a massive amount of people that were shocked by the outcome of the election. If you were not in your rabbit hole or your echo chamber, this would not be a big surprise for you, right? So I think open source and decentralization is the answer here, right?
And there's another thing, I guess, that is quite aligned with this, is we had a situation where big tech companies were having all the data.
Yeah.
Now we're creating AI protocols that are scraping the internet.
Yeah.
But the key part is, how do we keep our own privacy? Is it also going to be through Web3, and how are we going to solve that?
Yeah, I think again, the Web3 infrastructure or the ICP infrastructure can play a big role here, but there will probably be a hybrid of a decentralized infrastructure and just people running their own stuff on their own private machines, right? So data protection is something that I think Web3 will do very well, but my main concern though with that is that I don't think a lot of people still want that, or they even care about it, right? I mean, as soon as something is faster or it's a dollar cheaper, they don't care about privacy. I mean, how many people really read privacy terms and conditions? Not many.
No,
right?
I'm not doing that. But
me neither, right?
no,
So
I mean, but the thing is, the other day I had an example, which was, if you ask ChatGPT where I live, it won't provide the data, but it has the data because it's on Google.
yeah.
And that's probably where the thin line is of, if it is open source, then you could be finding everything, but it's your own data. So where are we moving to, in the sense that now tech companies are basically already running it? And how can we actually keep that into your blockchain, for instance, with ICP, with smart contracts, that it's built on trust? How are we going to connect that to your own data?
So there is this idea of having something called a data wallet, right? Where I mentioned this internet identity part, where let's say your data wallet, your data, your verified credentials and everything is connected to your internet identity, which is a sovereign decentral ID, right?
Yeah.
And then whenever, let's take that GPT example, whenever GPT in an ideal world would be asked about you, it would need to connect to your data wallet and ask for permission. And that is actually a win, and then probably would need to give you some microtransactions to your data wallet to provide this information. And that is a win-win, because not only would you, as the data wallet owner, be in the know who is requesting your data, you will be able to monetize your data to a certain extent if you want. But also the AI results can actually then verify that, hey, the data I pulled is from the source itself, right? Now, that is a great idea, and I hope we're going to get there, but it's obviously a very complicated thing in reality, not so much because the tech isn't there. The tech is actually there, but data is a heavy regulatory thing, right? So it will be very different from continent to continent, from jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
Would it be possible for a government to actually limit everything, or is it going to be borderless?
No, it's borderless. I mean, you can limit things, but I mean, today it just takes you a VPN to circumvent that, right? I think the idea that governments can stop anything that's digital is absolutely insane. I mean, that doesn't work. I mean, how many people try to stop Bitcoin, right? I mean,
well, they tried. Well, here we are. If we look forward, I mean, ICP is one of the biggest leaders in the AR narrative.
Yeah.
What is the ecosystem looking for? I mean, you've got grants that you're paying out at this point, or people can go for.
Yeah.
What is the typical project or partner that ICP is looking for?
So, I mean, there are many things, right? I mean, on the one hand, obviously, we encourage everyone to build on the internet computer along this AI value chain that I showed. We do have specific AI grant programs, and there are also some more funding programs going forward as well. But in particular, we are about to create an environment where you can also monetize your creations, right? Because I think this is a key important thing, because a grant, and I think that's a bit also of the lessons learned if you look at the entire Web3 industry a bit. It's like we have a lot of grant hoppers, right?
Yeah.
You take a grant here, you build something, you take a grant there, you build something. And that's also not very satisfactory for you as an entrepreneur, right? Because you want to monetize your things. So we're also going to have a heavy focus on providing entrepreneurs with an infrastructure where they can actually build something that will make a living for them. Yeah.
So if you're a builder, then you can just go to you through the DD.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously we have a very strong DD process, right? On your idea, on your capability, on how serious are you actually, right? And because we want to commit to you, so we need to see that commitment. But I think now is a fantastic time to go into ICP, because now all of these different components that I mentioned, they've been under development for a very long time. Now the entire rocket ship has been built. Now we're waiting for people to use it. Right?
We are waiting for Elon Musk to just come by. And
exactly. By the way, SpaceX would be a fantastic cooperation partner for running a decentral web, right? And Starlink, right? I mean, combine Starlink with like the vision of a decentralized web, and then off you go. We're free of big tech.
Well, it's good that I wanted to make that bridge. Like if we say we're hosting this or we're having this event in 5 years from now, what is your vision of where AI is going to go to and ICP is going to go to? It's always hard to like look forward by 5 years, but
I think in 5 years from now, we have probably brought in this entire new narrative, or not actually a narrative, the proof that you can build decentral web applications with the help of AI on a new form of the internet, which is the internet computer. We will also, though, and again, not financial advice, and I also don't know when it's going to happen, but my view is, because I've lived through the Web 1 and Web 2 kind of growth and cycle, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a Web 2.com kind of crash at one point in time. Right? And I don't mean necessarily just, the usual cycle drama that we always have, right? Where, it's a winter, oh, it's a summer, oh no, it's winter again. I really mean like a fundamental point, and that ties to your question around the hype curve. I really think at one point in time, investors and even everyone, builders and so on, will be mature enough and have seen enough that actually tech matters before the narrative matters, right? Obviously, narrative would always be important, but narrative without tech will not fly anymore. So that might have happened in 5 years from now, which means I think we're probably going to be in a very exciting place where we might even, as I mentioned, not even call this Web3 anymore. It's just a web conference, right?
I think calling it a narrative is usually more investment driven than actually fundamentally driven, because at some point, as I said, I think AI is just going to be integrated everywhere,
100%.
and you won't even know that it's being AI. And that's also tricky. That's why you've given some insights on the moral aspects as well. What about yourself? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Is that a job interview now?
No, it's not a job interview. But I'm always like...
No, I mean, I joined DFINITY because I am super excited about the tech, right? I've been in this entire space since end of 2014, so I've seen a lot of things come and go. I joined DFINITY because of the tech and because of the people, and this is a massive undertaking that we're up to, but it's also a world-changing undertaking. So in 5 years, I will still going to be with DFINITY, pushing the world computer forward.
Well, thank you. You're through to the next round. No,
All
I
right.
mean, well, thank
I'm
you
not
very
fired, okay.
Thank you very much for the keynote and also for this fireside chat.
Great.
I'm handing it over to the crew again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Michael.
Say when.